Yeah. All right, welcome everybody. We're getting near the end here, Sean. Our second place finishers from last year, LOC, Lucas, and Green Lightning, the most top three finishes in history with three.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm really excited. I mean, getting close to the end, it means, the draft's coming up. So, I mean, it makes me way more excited. I mean, it's great to see the top two teams, but also means the draft's soon. So, new year, new progress, and hopefully I win it all.
I love it.
So looking at Green Lightning's record, he's 49-44, and talking about those top three finishes. Yeah, with that record, it's only 5 games above 500, but I mean that's best for 7th overall. He's 5-4 all time in the playoffs. That's tied for 4th overall, which is kind of, I don't know, say scary, but it's amazing like how an almost 500 record in the playoffs and in the regular season gets you a pretty good, top 10 finish or top 3 finish.
It does. I mean, the LOC is competitive, but I find around 8-5 is where you have to be to get in the playoffs. And for Lucas, he's obviously been around that. Looking at the career record, and 4 trophies too in his cabinet. I mean, he's been a good owner. Most top 3 finishes, but yeah, we'll see if that consistency can keep going this year for Lucas.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to point out, he has there's 3 top 3 finishes, but he's been in the playoffs 4 times. I mean, so he has a pretty good track record to get in the top 3 teams.
Totally.
And then looking at his second place last year, his second place finish in 2017 and 2020. So he's definitely, he has 3 top 3 finishes, but he has 2 top 2 finishes. So that's pretty good, in my opinion, there. And looking at his schedule, he plays you week 1. He's 3-1 against you. He's 5-2 against me. And then kind of looking at the other teams, though, he's True North and Deuce Bombers are definitely his nemesis. He's 1-7 against Deuce Bombers, 2-6 against True North. And then like Too Good for a Name, he has a losing record against. So he's all over the board. He has teams he beats. He has teams he loses to. I mean, like Storm, he's 3-6, but then Billsy Bobby's 5-1.
I admit it. He's all over the map. For me, when I look at the schedule, I think what's kind of might save him is week 3, week 5. I don't think Billsy Bobs are always shit. He's ready to make the next step. Or, Norman Canadian guy could be wrong. Anything could happen. But, I think for Lucas, Deuce Bombers, he has to win that game. I mean, that really is just a really poor record against another team.
Yeah, I mean, just comparing other people's keepers versus his keepers, which we'll look at in a second, I can see an 8-5, 7-6 record out of his schedule this year so far.
Very well could happen.
And looking at his keeper, he's Justin Herbert, who's pretty good, but I think he takes a step back in his sophomore season. He has Miles Gaskins, which, I mean, anywhere else, I don't think he's a starting running back. He has Johnson, Kittle, and Andrews. He has those 2 tight ends are pretty good, but I mean, they're tight ends. I mean, Kittle will get you points, but he's better, an NFL player than a fantasy player in most aspects of the ratio. And he has, Devin White, who's a pretty good at linebacker.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes you have to watch out for the sophomore slump. I mean, Baker Mayfield went through one. Does Justin Herbert go through one? Dante Johnson, of course, I'm a Browns fan. I've seen the Steelers quite a bit. I've seen him drop a lot of balls. And you're right, Kittles and Andrews. I mean, Kittle has a hard time staying healthy. I mean, Devin White, one of the best. And you're right, it is a wild card with Gaskin. I've seen people have him high on their boards. I've seen people have him low on the boards. So that's definitely a risky play for sure.
Yeah, I mean, don't look at my tier 2 team, but I'm definitely low on Gaskins. And then looking at his picks, he doesn't have a first round pick, but he does have pick 21, which is, the first pick of the second round. So, I mean, that's only 2 spots after where he would have picked, if he didn't trade his first round pick. So I call that, a wash. He doesn't have a 5th. He doesn't have a 6th. He does have that 2 8th rounders. So, I mean, he's pretty good. I mean, he's not really, he doesn't have a first, but I mean, who really cares? He's 2 spots later. And I don't call that an issue there. He doesn't have those 5ths. So I don't really see his draft pick status hurting him this year. What about you?
Yeah, well, I see it. He's got 10 picks in the first 10 rounds, right? So that's an average of pick in the first 10 rounds. So I think he's going to be safe there. This is where I think he might get in a bit of trouble. No 12, no 13, no 16, no 17. Those are critical rounds. He only has 3 picks there in 7 rounds in critical pick depth pick rounds. You know what I mean? And I think
For
that's
sure.
going to hurt him this year for sure.
Yeah, those are your rounds. You're probably picking your depth wide receiver, your depth running back, especially with him only keeping 1 running back. So it might be an issue there. Or your IDPs. You're loading up in your IDPs here, so you're correct there. I mean, he only has, I think it's 8 picks in those middle rounds. And then kind of looking at his back 10, he has 2 in the 22nd, 2 in the 25th, 26th, and the 27th. He doesn't have a 29th pick, so he does end the round early, but I mean, that's where he's making a lot of his picks, making up for those 2 picks in the previous 10.
Yeah, he's a lot of those pick depth guys are going to be in that last 10 rounds, or maybe even some defensive starters, to be honest. And I think it's going to really hurt Lucas this year. I don't think it's going to hurt him enough to be considered one of the bottom 4 teams or a team to drop, but I think he will be questionable on whether or not he can keep that playoff success going and make the playoffs this year, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely exciting to see. I mean, it all comes down to draft picks. And to me, he's one of the teams that does better at drafting than other teams in our league. So I think it'll be exciting to see what he comes out with after the draft. Switching over to Dynasty, we got Chris and no more. I mean, he is the People's Champ last year, 2 years ago, and he finished 2nd place last year. So let's just say he'll finish 3rd place this year. I mean, we don't even need to do it anymore based on previous success.
You're right. I think he proved himself last year, right? He took over, a team that was drafted for him. But last year he made some moves. He's not scared to make moves. And I've been impressed with what he's done. And he definitely proved himself last year in Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the moves he made, and we'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, last year he went 8-5. He went 15-11, as I just said. He was a Dynasty champ in 2019, 2nd place finish last year. That's a win percentage of 0.577. I mean, that's pretty good in my book, especially taking over that shitty team that he did that was drafted for him. And like looking at his keeper, he does have Burrow. He doesn't have a second quarterback there, but he does have pretty good running backs. Let's be honest. He has McCaffrey, he has Henry, and Montgomery. Montgomery is your running back 3. It's pretty damn good. He has Robertson, Green, Fuller, Gage, which I'm actually a big fan of Gage, even with Pitts going there. He's Callaway. You're looking at his tight ends. I mean, he's Gronkowski and Waller. I mean, Gronkowski's probably only for another year, but still pretty good there. What do you think so far?
I think, looking at it, he does have Burrow, so he's got a lot of years. You're right. His running back group there is unbelievable. I like some of his depth pick. There's like Marquez Callaway. I think that's a genius pick for depth. He's definitely weak at tight end. Delaney Walker. I mean, will he be on a team? He's complaining about his Hall of Fame status. And, he's solid at linebacker, though. And even at DB, I'm high on Rayshon Jenkins there. So, no, I like his lineup, and I think No More is going to continue to be successful, but he's got to get a quarterback and a tight end for sure.
For sure. And looking at his picks, as I was saying, he makes some crazy moves. He traded a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, and I believe another pick to me for McCaffrey. But if you look at his 1st and his 2nd round picks, he's actually picking higher than he would if he would have kept his 1st and his 2nd round picks, which in my opinion is pretty amazing because we don't do, there's no snake draft in Dynasty. It is literally, if you suck, if you get 1st overall pick in round 1, you have 1st overall pick in round 2. And he's made some trades there. I mean, he's moving up 2 spots in round 1. I believe he's moving up a couple of 2 or 3 spots in round 2. He doesn't have a 3rd, he doesn't have a 4th, but in my opinion, I mean, that's pretty damn good for what he did. He has 2 6 and 2 8 round picks, but he's definitely shown that he deserves to be in the LOC.
I agree. I think Chris has an opportunity. So I've been running a lot of mocks, and I'm excited for our mock draft here in a couple of weeks. But for Chris, I see him maybe getting Trey Lance in round 1 to be his 2nd quarterback. I mean, here's a guy that could be in a Kyle Shanahan offense for years to come, as long as he can hang on to him, because obviously Jimmy G will probably start out the season. And then in round 2, he could probably get like Freiermuth or something like that. on the Pittsburgh Steelers to back up Gronk there at tight end. So I think he's got an opportunity here to fill those 2 holes. And I think Chris and Omar is a team to watch it out for again this year in Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think Lance is going to fall the 13th. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he falls to Suze, or maybe even Robert goes a little crazy and takes Lance at 4. I believe he's picking. I don't see Lance falling that far, but I mean, he could get Mac Jones. I mean, he could go crazy and go Winston, Jameson over there. I don't see him really doing that, but yeah, too. I definitely could see him taking Pat Thumuth over there. I think that's definitely a good pick if he did that. And I mean, that'll solve a few of his issues. I mean, even if he didn't go that crazy, I mean, there's going to be running wide receiver depth he could build on, over there as well, and make some trades to pick up some other players.
Definitely. No, I'm excited to see it. And I'm excited to see this week training camps open up for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. 2 teams I'm not really all that fond of, but it's going to be some football news coming. And then, obviously the week after, training camps will open up. Next week, we'll feature our draft preview for last year's champions, myself and Horror Business, as well as Stuart and Likely Losers and Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about those teams. I think both of them kind of made a couple of trades. I know you definitely made a trade that hasn't been really talked about, that I think is the reason you won. And let's just say it revolves around a quarterback who plays for the Bills. And I think that's really the reason you won last year. I think, that was a great trade for him. And then Stewart, he's been knocking on the door to 2 years in a row. I think he finished first in our division last year or 2 years ago, and he finished second or first or second this year. But then he came out of nowhere and to beat you and to take the league this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be good. And we're getting close, Sean. And have a great week. See you next week.
See you, buddy. I'll talk to you later.